Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in from different parts of the globe. We would have multiple other participants joining in, and we'll keep admitting them as and when time goes by. However, right now I introduce myself. I'm Ruchira Banka. I'm an IB educator and the founder of Our Journal Foundation, your host for the session today. I would like to thank you all for joining this workshop. I completely understand this is in the best interest of your students. To begin with, I would like to introduce to you Our Journal Foundation. Our Journal Foundation is a creative platform by Elevating Art Private Limited that supports process, practice, and education in arts and culture across the globe. Our Journal Foundation aims to create resources and serve as a support platform for students, teachers, and art enthusiasts from across the globe. It shall bring in resources to enhance and encourage creativity, critical investigations, explorations, and experiments that push dominant narratives. We believe that arts and culture are essential to our individual and community lives and for a more equitable and just world. Some of you have been a part of the workshops and webinars held by Our Journal Foundation in the past, and some of you are new to our community. Nevertheless, I clearly appreciate your enthusiasm as lifelong learners coming together, trying to learn from each other, trying to collaborate. And of course, as I said, that's in the best interest of your learners. Our webinar today is going to talk about MYP ePortfolios for performing arts. And we have experts from the dance and theatre field who are going to take you through the requirements of the MYP ePortfolio for performing arts. I believe this is the last session as per the old guide that we are going to follow. And post that, the guide changes, the criteria changes. I'm sure you all would have started using that in your lower grades of the MYP. The MYP 5, the current year MYP 5 is still using the old criteria. So we are going to talk about those old criteria, and we're going to talk about examples from the previous years, examples from this year's of the unit planner. However, trying to bring in a lot of creativity and collaboration, we just say that it is up to you, your thought process. How do you bring in that creativity into your classroom, and how do you support your learners to bring out their creative selves? So without further ado, I would want to introduce to you our speakers for the day. We have Mr. Vaishak M. Raj. Vaishak is a creative choreographer, entrepreneur, producer, and writer settled in Delhi, India. He's done his training in Kathakali, Mayurbhanj Chau, and contemporary dance forms. He has a strong forte in creative writing, dramaturgy, and screenplay writing. Development of a conceptual lens to have different perspectives to work remains a standout way of his creative endeavors. He's been trained in martial arts and yoga practices. He is an alumnus of Sainik School, Kerala, and a science graduate with keen interest in entomology and pathology. He's been conferred with several full scholarships in the field of dance and creative writing to pursue his advanced training. Vaishak is currently a MYP dance facilitator at DPS Gurgaon, engaging the students to develop their artistic voice and choice. He has recently added another feather to his cap, that is the CAS advisor for IBDP. He's been the creative head of the British Council's project, The Imperfect Circle. He has received a special invitation from the dance base, Edinburgh, to pursue a course in dance dramaturgy. His individual choreographies include Change, Fragrances, Evading Episodes, and many more. He has his solo dance piece, Evading Episodes, at the Latitudes International Performing Art Festival in Santa de Cruz, Bolivia, and in Austral Performance Art Festival in Buenos Aires. His recommissioned work, Eclipse, was recently selected for the parent edition of the Prana Festival. His full-length work, Ephemeral Fragrances, was selected and premiered in the prestigious Sangeet Natak Academy as a part of Silla Performing Arts Festival. His interest and expertise towards developing academic planning has bagged him a place as an IBEN member as a curriculum team, as an art curriculum developer. Thanks, Vaishak, for sparing your time and coming in to join all of us to share your expertise. Thank you so much.
We
have on board Srividya, a theatre expert. Srividya is the founder and facilitator at Akara, the Applied Art Theatre Company. She has completed her MA in Applied Theatre from Central School of Speech and Drama, London. She has worked with various international schools and kids of over 13 years. To name a few are Indus International School, Greenwood High, Legacy School, and Oak Ridge International School at Bangalore. She's taught the MYP Theatre for more than 5 years and has been mentoring MYP Theatre facilitators to effectively facilitate the ePortfolio. Srividya has been a part of the curriculum development team at Oak Ridge, developing the MYP curriculum for their group schools. She currently teaches at Head Start Educational Academy and at Advaya Shale. We would like to congratulate her to pick up a new role as a theatre facilitator with TISB. Having taught at various schools, and I would also say having taught as a co-partner with me in Oak Ridge International School, I can definitely vouch for her skills and vouch for her expertise, and would definitely want to bring in a point that Vaishak and Srividya have facilitated multiple workshops and webinars at our Journal Foundation in the past, and various other platforms to spread and share their knowledge. So without taking much of your time, I would hand over the stage to Vaishak and Srividya to take you through the ePortfolio requirements. Thank you, Srividya and Vaishak. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Ruchira.
Thank you. Over to you, Srividya. I'm just so amazed at the numbers that are coming on a Friday.
I know, yeah. So good evening, everyone, and welcome once again. So, as you know, the PCUP comes in for the May session on 1st November and for the November session on 1st of May. Now, when we look at the PCUP, can we get to the next slide, please? Yeah, so when we look at the PCUP, we're looking at a unit plan that's not completed because it is meant for us as facilitators to complete it based on our context and the resources that are available to us. So it is usually the unit name is given, the global context, the key concept, the related concept, and the statement of inquiry, along with the inquiry questions are given. Of course, more inquiry questions can be added based on what you are exploring. Yeah, and the task requirements are also given along with some resources for each of the subjects, and those usually help us to figure out what we can explore further. Vaishak, anything you want to add to this?
No, I think so. You've covered everything. But again, like the word suggests, it's a partially completed unit plan, which also gives you a lot of room to, but again, when we say partially completed unit plan, what is not completed is the, question that comes. For example, when we address, the global context, they give us the global context, but which exploratory strand to choose? How is that, how are we directing the context with the conceptual and traveling with that? All that is left to the creativity of the teacher. So yes, they give this, a broad framework of how it is, but how to drive it, to the lens at which we see it, that's more important. And I think so as facilitators' role, it comes more into that. Which strand are we picking up? How are we contextualizing the entire unit plan? So that, for me, that has been always the exciting part of the PCP. Whenever it comes, it almost gives us the framework and everything. But, within that structured road, you can, sort of take a unstructured, or, I won't say unstructured, but a different pathway to walk within the structured road. So yeah, the way of walking, you can decide.
Yeah, and I think that, yeah, exactly, Vaishak, like what you said, it really depends on the facilitator and the learners you're working with. And I think at this point, it's also important for us to mention that how we see it, today we're looking at mine and Vaishak's interpretation of it. And even while we were planning this, we had our own interpretation of it. And I think that's going to be the same for each of you as well. You will interpret this PCUP in your own ways. And I think that is the most important part. And not to take our word as a final word.
Never. We are just here like you, like we are also educators in our school, teaching just like you. We're just here to share. And I think it's more of a sharing.
Yeah.
No word is a final word. It's our interpretations. That's it. Again, we had conflict of, our interpretations also. So it can happen with you also. That you might not be completely agreeing to anything what we say, and that's completely fine with it. You can have your own interpretations of it. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think on that note, I'd like to say that we'd like to keep this as as open as possible for you also to give us your points of view and make it as interactive as possible, really. So, I mean, we're not giving any answers because we don't have any answers. On that note, let's talk about the ePortfolio task. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we're now going to introduce you to the ePortfolio tasks. Next slide. Okay. So as we said, the unit planner, the partially completed unit planner is really for you to look at your local context and the curriculum requirements of your school. There may be certain things that your school very specifically wants to look at, or resources that your school may have, or that is accessible to you. And I think those are the things that will drive how you complete this unit planner and how you make it your own. Yeah. And it is important that whatever summative assessment that is undertaken is set against the criteria for the MYP year 5. So we need to ensure that whatever we do is against MYP year 5 criteria and not the others. Anything you'd like to add here, Vaishak? Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So, yeah, the first thing we would be doing when we look at this PCUP is to explore the global context, the key concept and the related concept, and unpack the statement of inquiry given for the students in the PCUP. And the inquiry questions that are given will also help drive the research that they do for the first task, right? And also help in furthering the understanding of the statement of inquiry. Again, anything you want to add here?
Nothing here.
Okay. Can we go on to the next slide? Okay. So we're looking at the current PCUP. The unit is Art and the World, where the global context is globalization and sustainability. The key concept is change. The related concept is presentation. And the statement of inquiry is Art exposes 21st century issues. Now, can we talk about the SOI a bit, Vaishak? Because I think that's a big one to unpack here. And I'd like to really kind of go into what this SOI means. So does anyone have any sense of what this could mean? What could the SOI be looking at? Specifically when we're looking at theater and dance.
Yeah. See, now when if I remove theater and dance, but if I see the SOI as such, so if you we all know that, the SOI is constructed based on the contextual part and the conceptual part. So I like to see the SOI as a framework that gives me the contextual part and the conceptual part. Now, what in the contextual part? So it's giving us globalization and sustainability, but what is the contextual lens? What is our exploratory strand through which we are seeing the SOI? Again, this is based on the teacher's creativity, how he or she wants or they want to see it. So that's something, I'm not even entering that discussion, but I hope everyone knows that that's the important and that's the most starting point of your unit, that, what is the contextual lens that you are seeing? What is the exploratory strand that you're picking up? I think so. I saw 2-3 people, in the MYP, we have so many, Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups. So some of them who had completed planners and, who are uploaded and, they pick up different exploratory strands within globalization and sustainability. And I could see how the unit has been driven, like I told you, in that structured path, but how to walk, how are you walking within that structured path? Again, depends on what exploratory strand you are choosing. So be very mindful, creative, and as open as possible as to what strand you're choosing. Again, we are not here to give suggestions, but having said that, yes, that's one of the most important starting points. Art exposes 21st century issues. It's a very beautiful SOI. Again, how to use this SOI, how to use this SOI in further sort of taking the unit is also something quite creative. For example, I love the factual question first, what they have used, what are 21st century issues? I think so. Currently, I'm doing a similar unit with my group, and I do not see factual questions as something to be answered. I have seen, I think so. We had a discussion also, Srividya, earlier, that we just see people just answering these questions, just simple question answer. But I rather love to see inquiry question as to how you use inquiry questions to explore these tasks, the ePortfolio tasks. So when I have to understand that, okay, art exposes 21st century issues, but what are 21st century issues? So what is my process of understanding 21st century issues? How do I identify? Do I do research to identify? Do I have other strategies to identify? Again, open for the creativity of the teacher. And how is art bringing, 21st century issues? How is art addressing it? Or is, because now we are looking at the conceptual lens of change here. We are not looking at how art maybe communicates, because the conceptual lenses change, how art exposes 21st century issues. And what is that, driving reasons and causes. So those are these are my lines of thoughts. I would like to hear yours also.
Yeah, so definitely what you talk about bringing in that lens of change is very important, because then that also influences the practitioners I explore, or the theatre forms I might want to explore, right? Like the minute I think of change, for me, my head immediately goes towards Augusto Boal or Bertolt Brecht. When we look at the Indian context, I'm immediately thinking about Katkata puppet arts and the work they did at the start of the pandemic, the girl in the pink frock. I mean, these are the things that are coming to mind for me the minute we think about change, right? And when we talk about change, also looking at applied arts and how we can look at applied arts in the classroom as well, right? So those are the kind of things.
Yeah, even when you were talking, I was just saying that how you have moved from the first factual question to the second one, which artists have been inspired by 21st century. So see how organically it is flowing in our own discussions, actually. So I think all of the artists who are present today, I mean, everyone who is present here, I expect that most of them are artists. Oh, 22, such a big number. Okay, all the 22 of them are artists, but just think about that one performance that you have seen that has addressed a 21st century issue recently, about the artists who have, took up that challenge or, took up that risk to talk about that 21st century issues, and what kind of emotional response you had. I think so the first factual questions are answered just through experiences only, as we had as performers. So I think so the thing is to, help the student also, that maybe, I think most of our students are part of the 21st century world, and, they are experiencing more and having more knowledge about 21st century issues than us. Because when I did a brainstorming, when we explored 21st century issues, we came up with so many issues that we wanted to address, and we were just seeing which all artists from which all different continents and contexts have addressed these 21st century issues. And my students had a very, very different interpretation about every, production and dance works that had to come, which was addressing 21st century issues. And I particularly, so, we can even make I always like to see things visually first. Like scaffolding is a major process when I teach something. So I like to see, what is my first impression about an artist who is talking about this? What is the emotional response that is giving? Is it actually reflecting me to take or changing my perspective about something? And so that's how I see it always. And I think so that's exactly what the lenses are also talking, like, in terms of change, in terms of presentation. So it's about understanding, the lens at which we look, the contextual lens. Again, I'm coming back to both these, so seeing through the contextual lens, seeing through the conceptual lens. So keep those two in,
Yeah, and I think it also comes back to, because we're talking about 21st century issues, it also becomes very personal for our learners as well, I feel, because they are in the midst of it. They're right in the middle of it. And I think that's what also, makes it so much more important.
Correct.
Right?
So, the personal context is also quite important.
Yeah.
It can play a very good role here.
A very big role,
Yeah, as to why this performance, for example, when we have to select one performance for task 1, why that performance? Why not any other performance?
Why not any other?
Yeah, out of our brainstorming activity, how did we land up in that one particular performance? What drove us? So if there's a personal context to it, I think so it becomes more stronger.
Exactly.
The process becomes more stronger.
Yeah, and when it then influences your own performance, your own, intent for working towards your performance, it is coming from the within,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly, I like the debatable questions also. Are artists responsible for change? And I think so. I've always, sort of lingered onto this question. That those are one of the few questions that caught my attention.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I'm not a visual art teacher, but if you see visual art, even French Revolution and everything, how in the Renaissance period, how artists actually, starting with the painters and sculptors, then to the performers, how if you see each revolution, and even today, the greatest of greatest movements, how it has been influenced by art. You won't imagine. Just very recently, I saw that Paytm introducing one of their. I don't know if you have seen that documentary as to how money and gender is so connected, and how we always. I mean, like, this is, I think so, more evident in South Asian continent, but I don't know about the other context. But how we do not teach women much about money, and sort of separating them from financial decisions, and how it creates that huge gap in the economy, and how they are represented to theater. So I felt that it's beautiful how I've done it. So yeah, I think, like, it's still, artists are still responsible, or like, to show the world, to advocate, to just put it out there that
Yeah.
to make that change. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, arts in itself is highly political in nature, right? So I think it's important for us to also acknowledge that.
Yeah.
Right?
Should we move on to the second?
Yeah, we'll move on to the next one. Yeah. So now we're going to be looking at the first task, which is criteria A1, A2, and D3. So strand A1 looks at demonstrating knowledge and understanding of the art form studied, including concepts, processes, and the use of subject-specific terminology. Strand A2 looks at demonstrating understanding of the role of the art form in original or displaced context. And strand D3 looks at critiquing the artwork of self and others. In this one, for task 1 especially, we're looking at critiquing the artwork of others, versus task 4, which is critiquing the artwork of self. But we'll come to that at a later point. So if we could go on to the next slide. Again, this is the task-specific clarification, where task 1, you're looking at art which exposes a 21st century issue, including research about the artist and the context at the point of creation. So again, like we said earlier, we first look at what are the 21st century issues and look at the artists that have made a contribution to that, have responded to that, right? So if I were to, just from the top of my hat, when I look at that thing, I look at Katkata and the girl in the pink frock that they created at the top of the pandemic. And thinking about the research that they did, so the process that they followed was to talk to migrant workers. So it was about the mass migration that happened during the pandemic of the workers. And they spoke to certain people who they saw on the roads migrating, and they used those accounts and their observations in order to drive this performance ahead, right? So we're looking at the context in which the performance was created or the art was created, and how it exposes a certain issue from the 21st century. Then the next one is a critical analysis of one or two artwork. Now, here, again, we had a conversation about this while we were talking about this. And one thing we realized is we don't really need to look at two artworks or two artists, right? Unless there's a reason to, unless there's a necessity to. And I think, Vaishak, would you like to talk a bit more about this? Because I think you had made...
Yeah, I see, this is quite a personalized thing that I feel that because most of them do take two artists. I haven't so far seen more than two also, but most of the samplers that I used to see was two artists. But again, I've had the opportunity to see a few samplers which had discussed about one artist also. But it also depends on, what the strand is also asking for as evidence. So if you can see the slide before you, evidence, the presentation demonstrates the students' knowledge and understanding of the artwork or artworks and how it exposes the 21st century issue, including a thorough analysis and perceptive interpretation of their research. Now, to break down the language, if I have to break down the language, I will See, because first we have to understand this is addressing A1 and A2 together. So this is the evidence that we are looking at. Now, if we have to understand what is A1 asking for, Michael, if you can just go to the previous slide. Yeah, A1 is asking for to demonstrate the knowledge and understanding of the art form studied, including concepts, processes, and use of subject terms. So in the art form study, it should include the concepts. Now, what are the subject specific concepts? That is something the teacher should identify that, because often I used to have this dialogue with other teachers as to what is the real learning and teaching process that is happening during task one. Are we just, sort of giving the framework and telling our students, yeah, complete task one? Or what are we teaching at that point of time? What are the concepts we are teaching that is particularly relevant to that art form? What are the artistic processes that have been identified? What are the subject specific terminologies that are to be acquired? So the whole idea is the purpose of task one. The purpose of task one leading to the purpose of task two, leading to task three, and again, the final purpose of task four. Keep the purpose always as an umbrella term. So, and stand A2 is asking for demonstration of the role of the art form in its original or displaced context. Michael, next slide. Yeah. So again, now think about it. Using those keywords like, concepts, processes, subject specific terminology, original context, displayed context, 5 things. And it's also asking for a thorough analysis or perceptive interpretation of their research. So somewhere we understand or study the artworks, its concepts, its processes, the subject specific terminology is required, the original context, displayed context, and our perceptive interpretation after the analysis based on all these things about the artwork.
Yeah.
So I think so seeing it from that lens is very important, sort of bringing all these things together so that we don't miss out on anything. And second is the ability to present a detailed, insightful critique of the artworks chosen. Now, when we say critique, though the new guide explains this quite explicitly, what is critique and what is critique of an artwork, what is critical judgment, things like this. So this also, I think so, every teacher should go through the terminologies. What do they mean? What does the command term analyze mean? What does the command term critique mean? What is the difference between critiquing a work and analyzing a work? How does both the evidences of, analysis of a work and critique of a work look like? So I think if you make that compare and contrast notes and how do these look like, that can sort of, change your perspective about what critiquing is. I think so for critiquing dance, there are so many, resources out there that gives you a step-by-step procedure as to how to critique based on what is your critical, what is your critique based on? Is it based on its context? Is it based on its elements? Is it based on its techniques? Things like that to think about. So these are my thoughts on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think likewise with theater as well. I mean, what is the purpose of the art form? What are the tools that are being used? And these are the things that you can pick up on when we come to critiquing a theater performance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we move on to the next slide?
I think we have discussed most of this.
We have discussed most of it. Yeah. Yeah. So basically here, when we're unpacking the unit, it would be helpful to kind of use mind maps or any graphic organizers to help make those connections. And these are things that can be put into their process journal and also, used in their task as well. And again, the inquiry questions are for kickstarting the research. And again, like Vaishak said, not just to answer it for the sake of answering it, because really one leads to the other, and it's important to go through that process.
I just imagine our discussion was itself, we did not even see it, I think so, when we were doing this, but when we discussed, I suddenly just observed we are discussing in the same flow only.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. So that is there. Again, I think role of the art, A2 also we've discussed in detail.
Yes.
I think, right? Yeah.
Yes. Again, maybe a question is like, I would love to hear from the other educators also. Like, what do they actually mean by original context and displayed context?
Yeah.
It's a very
That's a good one. Yeah. Does anyone?
Yeah, if anyone wants to share their perspective as to what what do they mean by original context and displaced context?
So I think while people are kind of thinking about it, I mean, one thing that I can think of, especially in connection to this particular PCUP, is a practitioner like Bertolt Brecht or Boal are from the 20th century. But the way they use their art to create, towards activism, to create awareness of certain issues, I think for me, bringing in those tools to explore the 21st century issues, for me, that would be displaced context.
Okay.
Right? So adaptation of the tools and the techniques for me would be a way of displaced context.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you have any examples in terms of dance?
Yeah, I would have examples, but before going to examples, I think so we should at least, I think we should understand what is context in art.
Yeah.
What do we mean by context?
By context, exactly.
Yeah, because if you see the arts glossary, I know many of them don't like, because we are not very used to reading these documents.
Correct.
Quite evidently so, but if you really go into depth and read the arts guide and go into the glossary part, especially in the new one, the glossary is very nice, I should say, very nice. But context in arts, it's defined as the facts or circumstances that surround an event or a situation. That's what they define context as. Now we are talking about original context and what is a displayed context. So if I just take a performance in mind, say I am creating a performance that is, say, based on, say, climate change. So my point, at the point of creation, my context was climate change. But say, Srividya, when I presented it to you, you found the context to be about human innovation, or you found it to be about, say, deforestation, or allied things, your own. So from my perspective, from the point of creation, I see it as the original context of the performance, and from the audience perspective, I see it as a displaced context of the performance.
So that's two ways of looking at it.
That's two ways of looking at it.
But I'm very keen to see what others have to say, because I think there are so many other ways of looking at displaced context.
Yeah, displaced context.
And
I think so I've discussed with so many educators also. And at times you can see how, things like how the cultural context and socio-political context also influences, the original context and the displaced context at times.
Absolutely.
So, and I think so in DP, we, rigorously talk about cultural context and socio-political context. And I do not see how that is quite different. Our stand is asking for original and displaced context. It's quite clear in that. But talking about other contexts and how that is also impacting your, original context and displaced context can also be discussed. There is nothing wrong in it, because it does have a very organic influence on it also. So, yeah.
Correct. And it also gives us a sense of why that particular artwork or that particular, technique was created in the first place.
True.
So it gives us a historical background as well.
Yeah. So again, it's about seeing the, again, I said, context of what? What is context? What is context in arts? And context of what? Are we having context about the performance, or are we having context about the art form? That's something that
and I think that's something that has to be specific as well.
Yes, you have to be extremely specific.
You have to be extremely specific about that, because otherwise we're looking at too many things rather than focusing. Yeah.
I think we are much ready to go to the third.
I think we're ready to go for the second one now. Can we go to the next slide? And the third one, critiquing of the artwork.
I think we have discussed
we've discussed this very much in detail. But yeah, it is important to ensure that if you're choosing two artworks or two practitioners to compare and contrast, then you need to be sure why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think extra brownie points are given for 2.
I also believe so, and I really believe so. We don't know, but
We don't know, but
yeah, we don't know. So, but again, the purpose that why,
yeah.
what was my reason of going for a second artwork when maybe the first one would have justified everything that I had to do in terms of what the strand was asking and for the evidence that I'm getting. What was my reason of going for the second artwork? That I think so should be explicitly mentioned. Because then the process of research becomes more organic in nature.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about referencing and source cited a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. So the IB is also very clear about ensuring that students don't plagiarize their work, and so it is important to do the referencing and the bibliography for each task as well. And for task 1, it becomes even more important because it is a research-based task. So you need to ensure that you know what referencing style your school uses, and follow that style for each of your tasks. Yeah, this is something that's very, very important because students can get penalized if it shows up in the system that they've plagiarized, and they may do it without even knowing. So it's important that you start at a very early stage this practice of ensuring that they organize the material that they've collected. Yeah, is there anything else you want to add for that, or
No,
should we
I think
move
so.
on?
We are pretty much done. We have discussed so much about critiquing now.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So here we're looking at task 2, the development, which is criteria B1, C1, and C3. So strand B1 looks at demonstrating the acquisition and development of the skills and techniques of the art form study. So when we study a particular art form, there are certain skills and techniques that come with it, and students will need to show the acquisition and development, and this they show through their process journals. And I think for this particular task, I really need to talk about the importance of maintaining a process journal, because I have had experiences where students just have not maintained the process journal, and when it comes to task 2, they suffer. They really struggle because they have nothing to fall back on. And task 2 heavily depends on getting extracts from your process journals to demonstrate all these skills and techniques that they have studied. Yeah. So I think it's important from the very beginning. A practice I personally do is right from MYP 1 itself, get them to maintain a process journal, because it also, it develops that practice, which is so important. And as facilitators, you can figure out ways to make that more engaging for your learners, because I mean, one complaint that I always get is, but it's so boring. But why? But we have to reflect. Oh God. Yes, it is all that, but it is also such an important practice as artists. And I'm sure all of you as artists and as educators will know the importance of reflecting on our work. So right from MYP 1, just find engaging ways to get them to reflect on their work and use their process journals. So by the time they come to MYP 4 and 5, they have a more nuanced way of reflecting. They have a more nuanced way of using their process journal that makes it more engaging and interesting for them. And they would have found different ways of reflecting as well. I think that is important. So coming back to strand B1, when you're working towards a unit, we're learning different skills, and it's important to reflect on those. Then strand C1 is looking at developing a feasible, clear, imaginative, and coherent artistic intention. And for this, I am going to pass it on to Vaishak, because he has some very useful insights here.
That's a hard part. Okay. Yeah. So basically, I just got carried away when you were talking about process journal extracts. Suddenly, I'm honestly, I'm really honest. I didn't prepare this at all. It just came to me naturally. I'm just sharing with you. I mean, just think about today what we did as artists also, because we are most of us have entered, at least I started my artistic practices and everything when social media was a little around, not as great as what it is today, but I'll tell you what I used to do when I was a dancer earlier, you know. So basically what is tasked to asking, what it's asking for your, what is your process of developing your work? What is your artistic process? So it was very clear, like, for example, if I had an idea or a concept or a line of thought that I wanted to explore as a dancer, what I used to do is that, I used to simply ask in Facebook that, I'm having such an idea, this thought, anyone has any thoughts on it? I used to collect reviews about it. And, then, I used to think, okay, contemporary male use this kind of movement vocabulary. And, I use this kind of choreographic techniques. And whenever I used to make, rough drafts in the studio, what do we used to do? We used to take, I was discussing this with the visual art facilitator who was doing that, and Nia gave me a great example that, how we use Instagram. And I was thinking that that's exactly what I used to do. Whenever I was rehearsing in the studio, I used to take video drafts of it. I used to post it on Instagram. I used to take samples. I used to just take photographs. I used to just post it. So in a way, what was I doing? I was journaling only. If you actually see, we all love, just imagine when we do things, and I'm big time into food these days. So, whenever I go some places, I just click a photo, I just post it, I give a caption. What am I actually doing? I'm journaling in a way, I'm journaling. So I think this idea of journaling, it's not a notebook that they're maintaining. Yeah. I think so. We have to just be very clear on this.
That.
Yeah, we need to make them understand journaling is something which our students are automatically doing. I don't think so. Any of our students are not, journaling anything on social media. It's hard to believe in this today's world. Everyone is documenting in one way or the other. Either they have a diary or they have their social media platform. Instagram is a great journaling. What they're doing, everything they're doing journaling only. So I think we just have to tell them again, change your lens as to how you are seeing journaling as a process. It is very much evident that, okay, today I made a draft. Now, how am I going to, like, human nature? What if I forget? How will I track this? How will I map this? My journaling is for that. Now, how creatively I want to make again, there's no set template how to make a journaling. You can be as creative as what you want to make your journaling. So I think you should just give that liberty to your students and make them understand why this is there at the first place.
Yeah, but I think just to add on to that, because as you were saying, it also came to me that I think it's important while we're giving our learners the choice to journal the way they want and make it exciting for them. Also, if we are using any online mode, to again talk to the coordinator, and see what is okay from by the school.
Yeah,
because I think that's a very important one, especially when we're using online modes of journaling.
Yeah, I think so. I've seen different modes of journaling. So again, what is the mode of journaling that you want to present? And what does the students chooses? Everything is fine. I mean, like, we're not going to definitely give Instagram links or something.
Yeah.
We're not going to do. But I just gave them that, the whole idea of journaling even comes from there. When Nia told me this example of, how, we use Instagram and Facebook and everything for journaling only at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, that's exactly what I was also doing when I was dancing. Yeah. So the whole idea of journaling, what is the perspective and purpose of journaling? I think we have to make our students a little aware of this. Then I think so it's a good go. But if we just tell them to journal, then,
then of course it becomes a boring task for them.
It becomes boring and, just imagine if someone, all of us are sitting here as artists, someone just tells us to write about this thing. We're like, but we are performers. Why do we need to write about it? So, but if you see it as the process of, mapping and this thing, that's we are inherent. We do that otherwise also.
Yeah.
So
it's a part of our process.
Yeah.
Again, and
Yes. So I think what you asked me regarding artistic intention, I would really love to go a little deep on this. Yes. What do you mean by artistic intention? What are the, I think, like, the new guide, again, it defines in the glossary. If you think, I do not remember if the old guide defines it as very clearly as what the new guide defines, but maybe it's the same also. But, what is an artistic intention? It's like, it's a very clear statement, first of all. It's a very clear statement. It is not a lengthy paragraph. It's a very clear statement that defines that, if I just go through it, like, it's a very clear statement that shows what is the intended impact on the audience and what are the choices that we, make to achieve that desired impact. So that's how I see it based on the definition that is given to me in the guide. So a clear statement what is the intended impact that I want to have in the audience, and what are the artistic choices that I'm making to get that desired impact. And fourth thing, which we all know, it should be related to the statement of inquiry. So these are like four major things that I see for in an artistic intention. Again, I say that I often give this example to my students. I tell them, like, like our process, the artistic intention may not be very perfect the first time we do it. So I do a lot of redrafting with my artistic intention, like, till, I get that very clear cut, again, a very clear cut line of thought as to what I'm going to work on. And then definitely the skills that I'm going to acquire for that, the techniques I'm going to acquire. With regard to dance, we can talk about movement techniques also. We can talk about choreographic techniques also. So again, go for the liberty of that. And finally, what is our artistic process? Again, in the new guide, I think so, the terminology explore ideas, they have very clearly defined it. I do not know how it's in the old guide, but what are the different artistic choices and our, artistic process of exploring ideas to develop, to give life to this artistic intention. And what are the techniques and skills that we are acquiring together? I don't know what has happened. Stop hearing what is being discussed. I don't know. I think you can hear me, Srividya.
Yeah, I can hear you. I
think so, Sarah, that might be an internet glitch at your side. I think you can just check. I can be as loud as I can from my side. Yeah, so that's all with me from this side.
Yeah, one sec. I'm just asking her to rejoin so that maybe that might help her. Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, like you, when we're looking at it from the theater point of view, who are you influenced by? Why are you influenced by that practitioner or that practice, right? And how does that inform your choices, that your artistic choices that you're making is also very important, right? When you're creating your artistic intention. Yeah.
Okay.
And finally, strand C3, where it is about demonstrating the exploration of ideas to shape artistic intention through to a point of realization. Now, what is this point of realization? I think that's something that keeps coming up in all our IB documents as well, right? This point of realization. And I think for me, that is the artistic output.
Yeah.
Right?
Because if you even if you have ever applied for grants outside India,
yeah,
they always talk about conceptualization to realization.
Yes.
So we are definitely talking about. So again, what is the artistic process which you are following to get from the point of artistic intention to the final outcome? So what is the artistic process that you're following? Is it a set defined process? What are the peculiarities and characteristics of your artistic process? Again, I think so from person to person, this differs a lot.
This differs, absolutely. Absolutely. Can we get on to the next slide? Yeah. So here, when we're looking at task 2, we're looking at a detailed explanation of the intended outcome. The artistic intention should be feasible, clear, and imaginative. Like Vaishak said, it's a line, not a paragraph. And I think that's something that we need to keep driving in, because it's so easy to over-explain ourselves while we're doing this, that we forget that it has to be something that's just a one-liner, right? And it has to have its connection with the statement of inquiry. Yeah. So that SOI is something that we keep going back to throughout our exploration, right? Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think so pretty much we have covered that.
I think we've covered, yeah.
Yeah, and so these are the evidences that we look at, a detailed explanation of the intended outcome and its connection with the statement of inquiry, exploration of ideas, again, the artistic choices, the exploration of ideas that we need to have to realize that student's artistic intention, and finally the acquisition of skills and techniques to make that artistic intention possible. So our artistic intention, our artistic process, then development and acquisition and demonstration of the skills that is acquired to give life to that artistic intention.
Right. And again here, sorry, go for it, Vaishak.
No, I think so. I think both of us are going to talk about the same point only. So I think you can go.
No, so I was just going to talk about the kind of evidences that we can bring in here. I think that was what you were going to say. Yeah. So I mean, there are different ways. Again, coming back to your process journal, there's so many ways in which we document, our work and our processes. And there is actually no limit to the way in which, you can bring in our evidences for this. It can be in the form of sketches. It can be in the form of photos and visual aids. It can be in the form of storyboards, in the form of mind maps. If we're looking at performance-based tasks, we can look at videos. Yeah, so I don't think there's a limit really to the way in which you can show the evidences, but IB also adds here saying not through screenshots of audio programs or photographs of rehearsals. We can't use photographs of rehearsals and we can't use screenshots of audio programs, but I think otherwise you can really explore different ways of how they have explored. Yeah.
So photographs of rehearsals are also not I means it also creates quite a vague thing. What was, I mean, like I can put a photograph and tell that I'm working on this technique or this technique.
But it's not clear.
It may not be clear only. But say if I'm working on a skill, say a pose, or I'm perfecting a pose, or I can just show that development maybe.
Correct.
That's another possibility. But again, whether you want to show that possibility through recording or through a photograph, again,
I mean, if you're looking at set design, for example, you can look at sketches because that shows progression of ideas, or sketches to models maybe, right? So there are different ways of looking at it, but just to ensure that whatever evidences that they are using is clear and shows that development of skills.
I would like to draw everyone's attention to the if you see in task 2, it asks for a selection of process journal extracts to show first the development of a student's artistic intention. Second, so it's clear, it's asking to show a selection of process journal extracts to show the development of a student's artistic intention, exploration of artistic ideas, a minimum of 3 examples of skills and techniques, and develop to show the progression of work, 1 near the start, 1 near the middle, and 1 towards the end of the development process.
Very clear, this one.
It's very clear. And I hope I hope everyone takes this. That skills and techniques. What was it in the beginning? How did it develop in the middle? How did it end? Because again, we are talking about the artistic development now. The process, the development now.
And again, it is a selection of process journal extracts, which means that they have to be very clear and self-explanatory. We shouldn't have to have huge paragraphs of explanation for each of them.
And I don't know, like again, start, middle, and end. How do we know this is start, middle, and end?
Exactly.
Of course, putting dates to a process journal extracts is very important. Like,
very important.
Very, very important to show what was in the start, what was in the middle, and what was in the end. How did it come?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Should we move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I think so. We have covered everything in the next slide.
I think we have as well. Yeah, we've covered everything.
We can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, next slide.
And we've covered this also.
We've covered this as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so task 3, creation, which is criteria B1. We're looking at demonstrating the application of skills and techniques to create, perform, and or present. So earlier in task 2, we were showing the development of skills and techniques. Here we're showing the application of skills and techniques, right? So I think that's a very clear differentiation that we have to make and understand when we're working on tasks 2 and 3. Yeah, is there anything you'd like to add to this, Vaishak?
Yeah, I'd just like to break down the statement even for people who are hearing this again. Demonstrate skills to create the performance. Demonstrate techniques to create the performance. Please do understand it's asking for the application of your skills and techniques. So you have, when we are directing the student, you have to understand, what do we categorize as skills and what do we categorize as techniques? Very important. And how are these applied here? Because we can sort of amalgamate and tell this is the application of skills. But if you can go to that one deep level as to what are the skills and what are the techniques and how it is being applied, I feel that would help.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we get to the next slide? Yeah, so here we're looking at the students' artwork that's performed or presented. Yeah, so to create the created and or performed artwork as detailed in the artistic intention. The realized artwork which demonstrates the application of skills and techniques acquired. So here, at least when it comes to theater, it is about taking the relevant extracts from your performance videos. So when you are when you record your students' performances, the students will have to select extracts that demonstrate these application of skills and techniques. So you have to be very careful when you are choosing the extracts that you're going to show. Yeah, would you like to? And you also have to keep in mind the recording limits and the page limits, because there are, and we'll be going into that a little later, but there are limits as to how many pages and how many minutes of recording you can bring into the ePortfolio. And it's not a lot, actually. That's the other thing that we need to be careful about. The balance is very off, actually. I find it really bizarre. But anyway, that's something that we'll look at later. Vaishak, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, I think I just go back to my, like, how I understand, like, artistic intention. Like I told, a clear statement. What is the desired impact on the audience? What are my artistic choices? And what are the ways, what are the choices and the ways in which I'm getting that desired impact? So the third part, the developments and, you know, whatever choices and processes I'm collecting to make that desired impact. This is actually asking that the created or performed artwork as detailed in the artistic intention. So please understand that when we make the artistic intention, this should also be evident that, you know, what part of this am I making into, you know, I'm realizing it into a outcome. So these two should be connected. So this is where we bring the whole alignment that, you know, I'm in my artistic intention, I'm talking about this, but in my application, I'm doing this. That disalignment should not be there. So both these things. So again, clear line of thought. Because absolutely. I think a lot of times, if we have this thing of, you know, we make the performance and then we go back to doing this, it's not an organic process, actually. You are not going, because then we'll start talking about different things at different points of time. Then there is a disalignment. So one of my ways to understand whether the student's outcome and the artistic intention is clear is to understand what are the things that is being discussed in the artistic intention. Am I seeing that in the performance that is being applied? That's how I make the connection.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's my interpretation of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's how I look at it as well. To kind of look at both together and see whether there is that connection. Okay, I think we can go into the next one. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. I think again, we have gone through this. So can we get to the next slide, please? Task for the commentary. You know, one thing that keeps coming back to me when I look at these 4 tasks is that it also each of these tasks in their order also follow the journey that we take in creating art.
Yes.
You know, and that's a beautiful thing about the ePortfolio, because it takes the learners through that journey. Albeit it being a bit academic in nature, but it takes us through that journey of creating art, you know, and that's what I love about this. So the final one is a commentary and it's a reflection. Yeah. So strand D1 looks at constructing meaning and transferring learning to new settings, right? So in task 1, we looked at practitioners, we looked at different artwork, and we critiqued them, we analyzed them. Right? Here, we're looking at constructing meaning from our own work and transferring creating meaning from their work and transferring that learning to our own work. How did that journey happen? Right? And finally, strand D3 looks at critiquing the artwork, in this case of self, and when we look at others in the context of our peers as well, of rather the learner's peers. Right? So if we can, would you like to add anything to this?
I think it will be much evident if we go to the next slide, actually.
I think so, yeah. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So
yeah, you
go
can,
for
you
it. No,
can
go
hear
for it, go for it, go for it, go for it.
Okay, so the commentary, so this is from the PCUP, the commentary that includes evidence of the student's ability to construct meaning and transfer learning into their artwork, a critique of the student's own artwork, including how it was created and how it exposes a 21st century issue. What is the evidence we are looking at? To construct meaningful connections between their outcome and the statement of inquiry. That means, is their outcome also related to the statement of inquiry? What connections do it have to, because we were initially talking about the contextual lens and the conceptual lens forming in the statement of inquiry, sort of driving us to the learning and making to the final product. It made us reach the journey. Now just see back, is my performance in alignment with my artistic intention in alignment with my statement of inquiry? Now we are looking at the final outcome and the statement of inquiry. Is it being aligned? So what again, what are strategies? I personally am not going to share any strategy today because I feel that I'll be very, very impartial to share strategies. But are you sort of using some strategy to make this connection visible and evident with very authentic examples and evidences? That's something which I think so every teacher should think about. What can I bring in here? And the second one, critically analyze their own artwork and evaluate the artwork within the context of others, including how it was created and how it exposes a 21st century issue. So it's quite clear on this. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if we go on to the next slide, that will be, because we've detailed that out further. So when we're looking at D1 here, yeah, as we said earlier, it reflects on the connections between the final performance and the statement of inquiry. And it reflects on the impact of learning. So we're looking at the artistic process, the impact of the performance, moments of success, moments of unsuccessful moments, the ATL skills, and the learner profiles acquired. So we're really looking at their performance in context to all these things.
So again, the idea is we are constructing meaning and seeing how the learning is transferred in new settings actually.
Yeah. So again, we're going to the original and displaced context here as well.
Yeah.
Right? Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So D3 looks at critiquing your own artwork. So it's a formal analysis. We're looking at the elements and theories of the techniques that we've used. Yeah. So if we're looking at a particular practitioner, we're looking at their theories, at their how their their process of creating and our process of creating, an analysis of that. Yeah. And also, how are we addressing the 21st century issues that they have addressed? And this next one is an interesting one, peer evaluation. And I think that's an important one because when we're looking at our artwork in context of others as well, I think the peer evaluation really comes into, into the thing here, because we're looking at how others' performances and how others' processes have also influenced our work.
Yeah.
Right.
And concluding using a very reflective process or again, I'm when you're talking about this also, my mind is constantly thinking what all strategies can I bring in to make this more visible? Because this is, I think commentary always asks for the visibility factors also. If you can bring in more visibility factors with evidences that, not this, that, I've developed this, I've developed that, I think it's this, I think that, but authentically, like, what evidence am I showing to support my statements? Especially when we are critiquing, when I'm making a critical judgment on something, what is it based on? What are my points, entry points? What are my leading points? What are my extending points? What are my exit points? And what are the evidences I'm providing for that? So my mind is constantly over all that part right now. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we can move on to the next slide. Yeah. So these are some of the command terms. I think this is from the new guide. Am I right, Vaishak?
But I think so. The old guide also, it remains almost the same. I don't see much.
So I think it's very important as facilitators for us to read up these command terms and really understand them, because it changes the way we approach each of the tasks. Because if you see in some of the tasks, they have used both critiquing and analyzing very much interchangeably also. So we need to be really careful of how we're using them. Yeah. And how our learners are also using them in their work. Anything else? I think
I
we
do
can.
not say, like, I particularly want to sort of draw attention to the command term demonstrate, which I usually do in my class also, because demonstrate is what your task be mostly asked for, like the task two. Like, see, make a clear reasoning or evidence, illustrating with examples or practical application. So think in terms of the subject context, in terms of dance, in terms of theater, how you can demonstrate this. Because again, I tell, read the strands again and again to have different interpretation, to see, what are the other ways in which, I can bring, I can stay true to the sense of the command term and the strand, as well as be creative in, making things more visible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I think we can go on to the next slide. Yeah. So these are just a couple of notes which we think are important for us to keep in mind, to always make the connection to the SOI and the global context explicit. Make it very clear. And these are the two things that we keep going back to throughout the 4 tasks all the time. Yeah, and also to remember, because in task 2, it was about the development of skills and techniques. And in task 3, it was about the application of the skills and techniques. And it is very important for learners also to relate to the two of them when they're working on their tasks. It cannot be that when they're in task 2, they're talking about 2 different skills and techniques, and in task 3, it's 2 different ones. They have to relate to one another, and that's very important. And I think it's really in our hands how our learners develop their artistic intention as well. So I think as facilitators, we really need to push them and guide them to make it as clear and as crisp as possible. Yeah, would you like to take the next couple of ones?
Yeah. So I think we have discussed the importance of maintaining process journal and the whole purpose. It's not something that it's quite alien to us. I think so. All of us as artists, we do it in one way or the other, and we just need to sort of transfer this to our students also and make them understand, sort of inquire, make them also inquire into why a process journaling is required. And I think so that should have been done at a very early stage. MYP 5 is quite a late stage to make them realize that, sort of in between their personal project and, all that is happening in their life at that point of time. So again, FA activities for tasks using ATL and learner profile, so that student reflections have these address. It's very important. Again, I mentioned that, to make them aware of, what is the skill being applied and used, and what are we working towards to. Very important to direct. Highlight the ATL learner profile and the subject specific vocabulary. Yeah, highlighting always works. And because I think so, as artists, most of us are visual learners first, auditory and visual learners first. And though, our primary way of understanding life is kinesthetic, but I think so visual imprints are very, very, we take it very seriously.
Yeah, and I think these are things that we need to just keep kind of pushing from the beginning and not suddenly bring these up in MYP 4 and 5.
So there should be a progression of learning.
Yeah, should be a progression.
Yeah, like my teacher, drama teacher in my school, Miss Bandana, from whom I've learned a lot. So she also used to say that, you have to market this document, so sort of make it aesthetically quite nice. And, those are important things. Having said, there is no set format prescribed by the IB. Follow the criteria requirements, understand it, and develop your own interpretation about it. Collaboration is one great way. I think so. All of us landed up here just for that same reason, and be as creative. So yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it really comes back to, what we've said here is not set in stone in any way or form.
I think we have not set any stones.
We haven't set any stones, which is great.
But you can see that we've been very diplomatic in that.
No, but it's really for you to, as a facilitator, know how to take these things forward, and in a way that, that works well for the setting you're in your own context, and also artistically, how do you take it forward for yourself?
I think, yeah, we've stressed a little bit, but if you have any questions, you can direct us. The next 10 minutes, we'll have question, but not more than 10 minutes. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so
you want to discuss about some,
yeah, very quickly, I think, so there is a kind of seesawing balance that the IB has in terms of audiovisual evidences and text and image evidences. So the maximum number of A4 pages you can use for all 4 tasks is 30 pages. But if you do all 30 pages, you cannot have any audiovisual evidences. So the ideal really is to look at a 6 to 9 minute video and an 18 or 12 page text and image evidence, so that you're kind of giving that equal importance to both. Because task 3 is heavy on the visual evidence. So you need to ensure that you have enough space for that, but also choose your visual evidences very carefully. So you don't need to add everything, but just choose what is required for that task. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add for this? Yeah.
No, I would like,
that's
these are the things written on stone. So I think so we should follow them to the E. So yeah.
Yeah, there we go. I think that's it. Yeah, any questions? For this, please ask your coordinator, talk to them, and they will give you a better understanding of this.
Okay, this slide of moderation sample size, I think so. This is, yeah, your coordinators can give you a good understanding about this.
Yeah. So yeah, are there any questions that you have? Anything that you want to discuss? We have another 10 minutes for that. Yes, Gautam.
Yeah, Gautam has raised.
Please unmute yourself.
Hi, that was great, and that was a lot of information to process in one go, you know. So, I mean, at the risk of repeating yourself, could you please go back to criteria A and talk about the displaced context with an example? Thank you.
I think I've done that, Gautam. Yeah, I'll do it again. So again, displaced context, you can see the displaced context of the art form. Again, displaced context of the performance into, again, what lens you're selecting. Please be careful on that. What the criteria is asking, just see that. This one, Srividya can give you an example of displaced context with regard to the art form. I can give you a displaced context in the lens of the performance. So for say, I'm doing a performance based on like at the time of creation, like when you created the process, like when you created the piece, my piece was based on, say, climate change. Okay. Now there are reasons, there are personal contexts, everything coming into place that contributed to that original context. That, you know, at the time of creation, what was the context? Now, say I bring it to a new setting, that, you know, I'm taking it to another place, performing it. Now, as an audience, now I'm seeing it as an, like, there's an audience, say Srividya is seeing my performance. Now, as a critic or as an audience, like, you know, so she is saying, okay, you know, I'm seeing human invasion, like my entire lens of seeing this performance, my perspective is through human invasion, or say about deforestation, about something. She picked up one or other thing that sort of influenced her perspective, and the entire lens went through that way. So what we discuss usually in abstract pieces, actually, you know, at the point of creation, the creator, the choreographer has a point of view, but the piece is abstract, it's open for interpretation. So the audience also have their own interpretation. So there is my original context in place. Then from the audience view, there is a displaced context also in view. Again, there are views, again, for example, say some work that happened in so-and-so time period. Original context was this. Now, in today's world, when I see that work, my viewpoint about that is completely different, because so many other things have come into place, cultural contexts, political contexts, so many other things. Movies we discuss now. Today, I was discussing with one of my friends that, you know, this movie that I saw when I was a child, you know, it talked about conflicts between, you know, how we have conflicts between religion and things like that. And, you know, how we should focus on the greater humanity. So that was the context for me when I saw this movie, like what, 20 years back. Now, today, when I was talking to him, I was telling him, but today when I see it, I see more of, like in an urban context when I'm living, I feel that, oh, but we are judging people based on color. We are judging people based on how they look, how they appear, how they talk. So the context of religion and humanity is no longer there now. I'm talking about so many other contexts right now, but that movie is the same. So at the context of creation and what is now. So the time period sort of moves the context.
Absolutely.
Again, the same performance, if I talk about, say, today I perform it here and I performed it in another place, again, the context
it's going to be different. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's an original context from the point of creation. And then there are displaced context. What influences the displaced context? Is it the time period? Is it the setting? Is it the cultural? That can be different.
Yeah.
I hope I have made justice to that, Gautam.
Yeah, absolutely. That was wonderful. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Anyone else for questions?
Yes, may I?
Yeah, please go
Zubain.
for it.
Yeah, hi, Zubain here. First of all, thank you so much for this wonderful session.
Yeah.
I just have one basic question. This is related to task 2. And so if you check with the evidence that that are required to be there in the ePortfolio, so in the guidelines, it says that not through screenshots of audio programs, that I understood, but or photographs of the rehearsals, it says.
Yeah.
So I remember that we used to keep the photographs, annotations, and the way the students were doing process of creation. So I remember we did it in past, but now it is little different than what used to be there before. So could you please throw some light on that? Thank you.
Again, I think so. These are interpretations of us, but just think about it from an from our point of view also. Like for example, say I'm taking a screenshot of one day's rehearsal that is happening there. That rehearsal can be anything. It can be, how do I know, is it a part of acquisition of skills? How do I know whether it's a part of a process? What clarity does it throw? I mean, like for visual art, I think so it does throw a little bit of clarity, but for performing arts, I really don't think so. It is very vague. It is very vague. It is not clearly sort of, I would say rather it is sort of, taking away that authenticity of what you're discussing there. Because if I feel that if I see a genuine recording, where the process of creation, feedback, all that is happening, I would still rather want to that than seeing just a screenshot of or an image. Like I completely agree with what guidelines they've given. I think so it's a great thing, because how do we know whether that, because I can take picture for anything, like, and put it there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. This is something I keep telling my students as well. When you do something, we need to keep in mind the examiner. And we need to ensure that we're being absolutely clear as to what we're putting into each of our tasks, so that the examiner is not left questioning what's happening. And that's a very important thing. So yeah, something like an image or a screenshot, you'll have to really explain in order to make them understand, but it's still not going to make any sense. It's going to make sense to you and your learner, but not to the third person, not to the examiner who's looking at it. And so that would really disadvantage your learner in the process, I feel.
I used to do something in my class. For example, task 2, I used to use the GRASP model. And I used to tell them that you are going to take a leg dem about this process and the process you're going to create. Imagine you're going to take a leg dem and you want them to sort of go through the whole thing. So your role is that you're going to present and, audience is so and so person, blah, blah, blah. But do you think that that screenshots of the rehearsals, using that in the leg dem will be very effective? I don't think so. Yeah, exactly.
So in that case, do you recommend that when we want to show the development of the skills, so maybe a 1-minute video with multiple clips, say 10 seconds, and I'm having 6 clips for 1 minute, right? So 10, 10, 10 like that. So that's what I can show for that particular student, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that would be far more that would be clearer and better than
Right.
having the screenshots.
That would provide more clarity of how he has
Yes.
developed the skills.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Considering the nature of the subject also.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? I think we can go for 2 more questions.
Yeah.
Then we'll call it a day.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, Rohit, it was so productive session. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank
We are
you,
trying
Rohit.
again, like we are just throwing in perspectives.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks you a lot for the guidance. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can
Glad it was
I ask
helpful.
one
Yeah.
question?
Yes,
Yeah,
please,
Shri Kumar.
please.
Yeah, this is wonderful session. I've learned really very good points out of it. About the criteria, task 4, the evaluation. I would like to know about little more. Why? Because as I'm doing it, presenting in front of peers and recording and all of these things. So, do we need to add a recordings in the presenting mode or just documenting?
Again, how you're strategizing this, because I'm not, again, like what we told, what goes into the recording and what goes into the written document is completely the teacher's discretion. And this thing, you can definitely, as far as the, setting is concerned, both are possible. There is no fixed rule that, we have to do this in this and this and that. Both are possible. What you find it more effective in order to show in terms of the evidencing that it is asking for, go ahead with that. If you're feeling that, okay, this is the best possible way in which I feel I'm doing justice to the criteria and for the evidence that is being asked, go for it. What I would personally suggest is rather think of what strategies you're using to make, the evidencing quite visible and clear. Like I always talk more of strategies and documenting evidences when it comes to task 4.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the only thing that you need to keep in mind is a requirement of the page and audiovisual minutes, right? No. Otherwise, it's really up to you how you and your learners present the work.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And one more thing, like, do we have any particular timing for the videos? Like, do we need to put a 3 minutes video, or like for the production, like what we say, if it is a final video, is there any particular timing for that, or like 3 minutes or duration of the videograph?
Yes. So if we can just go back to slide number 27, please. Yeah. This one. So this is basically the little balancing act that we have to do when we're working on our ePortfolios. So you can have a maximum of 15 minutes of audio visual, but no pages. Or we can have 30 minutes of text and image evidence, but no audio visual. So you need to see in this little sliding thing, which works well for your learners' ePortfolios.
I think all of us come within the video thing only, because
so, exactly,
we are performing. So somewhere between, the middle part, I think so most of us fall in that category.
Between the 6 to 12 minutes of video and the 18 and 6 pages is what we would look at, I feel.
So you should, sort of ration this very carefully. What
so
goes
So, I mean, sit with your learners and figure out what's best for them.
Because if you can see the minimum, the minimum video limit, it starts from 3 minutes onwards.
Yeah, exactly.
So say if you have a performance also, the least I can consider is 3 minutes. Of course, the video will be 3 minutes, starting with 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And then how do you want to take it?
Yeah. So which is why you take extracts rather than an entire performance. I mean, that's up to you how you do it and the nature of the work you're doing.
And also go to the TSM, the teacher support material, the samplers which are there, how much time they are taking. You can have that as a referencing point also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Yeah. Any quick well-being thing that we can do that, I think we can just close it on a note on what we are actually excited at. If you want to share in the chat boxes, you can also share. If you look at the chat boxes, our Journal Foundation will be providing you a link to join a WhatsApp group, which they have, where they collect all the people who have participated, so that, for regular updates and things like that, there is another Google form and a review form also that comes into play. You can please click onto that also, as you see in the chat box. I would like to end on a note where we can just quickly, share what we are excited for maybe the week. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be anything. So I would just like to end on that note. Srividya, would you like to share what you are excited towards to the week?
Oh, wow. Wow, this is a big one.
See?
No, I'm just excited, honestly, that the week is over. It's been a big week for me. We have a production and all coming up, and it's been a massive week. So I'm just looking forward to the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I am excited for many things actually. Professionally, yeah, right now we are developing the new teacher support material for the new arts guide. I'm super excited for that. And this one, I'm also working on the enhanced MYP project, which I feel it is incredible. A lot that, I can't share even a single word what happens, but it's so exciting that, how the new enhanced MYP is shaping up, and the passion and the love and the dedication that the IB team is growing for it. I'm also starting my PL training in by March 7th. So these three things are just sort of keeping me on the tip of my toes. But yeah, as every weekend, I am excited to explore new food joints and things like that. So yeah, that's my excitement point for the week.
Nice.
So I think we are, I think most of them I'm connected in one way or the other, but do reach out to us through LinkedIn, through anywhere, if you want to just throw perspectives, have a chat, anything. I think so. I'm quite open to any sort of collaboration.
Absolutely.
Professionally, of course. Yeah. So I think that's it. And thank you so much for joining from different parts of the world. And I think Art Journal is also sort of growing in its numbers, and it has become this one point platform for all art teachers, especially IB art teachers,
which is
for
great.
collaboration, everything. Yeah. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much for being here. And
Thank you.
we hope to connecting with all of you in one way or another. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you so much.